Hello and welcome to the garden, and welcome to, I think now, part 4 of this series of videos where we are transforming our old polytunnel frame here into a fruit cage. So in the last video I got these posts concreted in place and I made up the door. So I've just taken the door out of the frame here. It was just clamped in place, so I can fix the hinges to it and then get the mesh on the back of the door. I think these now are fine. So if I just pop that clamp off there and that one. So the only thing holding this in place is the concrete, and yeah, I mean, obviously I can pull the post this way. I will fix them to the bar at the top, but that's nice and solid. So this is going to have no trouble taking the weight of the door. So I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. I'll have a little look in a minute. I may drill through this tube here and screw into the back of this wood, or then actually I could just put a couple of little holes in and tie wrap it in place with a heavy duty tie wrap. It's not a big deal. I will probably screw through the frame in 2 places, make sure that is nice and tight, but it doesn't really matter. This isn't going anywhere. So yeah, time to get on with the door. Well, I've got these 3 hinges positioned on the door here. So the only jobs I need to do to finish this are screw the hinges in place and then cover this with mesh. Now this is the rear face of the door, and I'm inclined to put the mesh on this side. That does mean running it over the hinges, of course. That's not a problem at all. So I'll get the hinges on first, then I'll get a sheet of mesh cut to fit on the back, and then I will staple that in place. These hinges are cheap and nasty, so-called heavy-duty hinges. It's a bit of a joke. They are definitely not heavy-duty, but there are 3 of them. The only important job here really is to line these up nicely so that these are all properly lined up and the hinges aren't fighting each other when you try to open it. So I've done that and I've clamped them all in place, and yeah, that's fine. So all I'm going to do is drill a little pilot hole for the screws. I'm putting that one in at just a slight angle because that is quite close to the edge of this piece of timber. Alternatively, I could drill a new hole in the hinge itself, but I don't want to do that today. Well, I found a reasonable offcut of this old mesh. So I'm just going to come along here now with the cutters and trim it to size. I've got this piece of mesh held in place now. All I need to do is staple it in place. So I've got the same staples that I used on the baseboards when I nailed the mesh on the sides, and I don't suppose I need too many of them here. Of course, this old mesh, it's been coiled up and it's also a bit all over the place because it was ripped from the old fence, so it's never going to sit perfectly flat, but it'll keep the birds out. Now, the reason I wanted to put this mesh on the inside, of course the rest of the mesh will be going over the outside of the frame, but I wanted this on the inside of the door because it leaves all these sharp edges and it would be so easy to get snagged on this as we walk by. So by putting this on the inside, it's completely out of our way. As we open the door inwards, there's no problem at all. There's no danger of us getting accidentally caught up on this stuff. And as somebody mentioned on a previous video, a pair of pliers is a handy way to avoid whacking your thumbs when you're doing this. Well, I've got the door clamped back into the frame here, and I've only got it clamped on the hinge side. It's the only side that matters right now. I've got it clamped in 3 places with a 5mm spacer in each place, and just looking down the gap here, it's not too bad, given that these posts are a little bit bowed and twisted. That doesn't seem to hang too badly. So now I've got that clamped in place, I can go around the other side and fix those hinges to the posts. So fumble fingers. Right, that's all right. These line up fine on the post. Yeah, this clamping really does help because I don't have to fuss about, trying to get a couple of screws in while holding the weight of the door or any nonsense like that. I can just screw these into their final positions. So now the moment of truth. As I mentioned, these hinges are rather nasty. If I have any problems with them, I will take them off and put something truly heavy duty on. But now I can release the clamps and hopefully there are no disasters. I've got a door. Now, I'm quite excited about that. I think that looks fine. Yes. Lovely. Perfectly wide enough for a big fella like me. I don't have to come through sideways. Very pleased with that. This doesn't look too bad from this side. I was a little bit concerned about this post because it is a little bit bowed, but actually when I had this all clamped up, so that the door was basically holding the doorposts exactly where I wanted them when I did the concreting. That has left this post looking pretty good. Now, of course, changes in humidity, and you know, when this gets rained on and then baked in the sun, I would expect this to warp. The sides of this door, they're only 2-inch timber, and I would expect this to move a little bit, and undoubtedly the posts will too. So if I weren't worried about the bowing of the door, I'd probably put one catch right in the middle. But I think with these things, it is a bit nicer to have two catches, one up the top and one down the bottom. Now I can't get a catch on the very bottom rung, there's nowhere to put it, and actually I'm a little tempted to do these backwards and put the bolt on this side. And yeah, I mean, there's no reason why not. I know these are normally on the door itself, but there's no reason why I can't put these exactly where I like to put them on this post. Otherwise I'm left having to fix on these pieces, and that would mean putting the second one here in the middle, and I'd rather have it a little bit lower. So I think what I might do is be slightly unconventional, mount the bolt on the post. So what you'd normally do, of course, is grab that in order to pull the door shut. I know I can grab hold here, but I have got a little handle as well, which I can fix somewhere just to give me something to pull that door with while I get the catches in place. So, okay, that's absolutely fine. So I think I might clamp this door to this post now, just in one place, just so it's not flapping around while I fix the rest of the stuff on there. If I put this one somewhere around here, if that door does bow at all, I'll be able to at least hold it closed nicely against this post. So I will just clamp that in place, not very tight. And then I can measure up from this bottom member here and put the other one more or less the same sort of distance down up here. So yeah, that'll be fine. As it happens, that's exactly 8 inches, so that will do nicely. Right, now for the other part. do nicely. So the final piece now, the little door handle, and that wants to be about there, I would think. I'll pop one screw in up the top and that will hold it nicely in place. That ain't gonna work. Yeah, job done. I finally have a door on the fruit cage. Just take that spacer out. Yeah, that works very nicely. Just a couple more jobs left then. I need to screw through into this wood at the top of the frame. I mean, it's hardly essential. It's not going anywhere anyway, but a couple of screws there, that will finish that off. And then I need to trim these pieces to the frame and put a little bit of paint on the end grain. Then I need to fix these baseboards in place. Those I will screw through into this post because this wood is rather better than the old wood we found for the baseboards. Then I've got to screw this one in place as well, but I think I might come back and do that another day. Right, I am back and I'd really like to get this job finished today. So next stage, to screw in this cross piece. I don't really like doing it, but I'm going to just spike this in at an angle here. A couple of long screws on both sides. Got some chunky 4-inch screws there. They will do a nice job across there if I get the angle sensible. Doesn't want to be too extreme. That's not quite lined up. This piece of timber is slightly twisted, so I'll have to see if I can do anything about that as I fix it. Probably not. Okay, so guess who didn't charge up his batteries? What a wally. Of course, this weather doesn't help because batteries really don't like the cold. Let's see. Oh, that doesn't sound hopeful. Okay, I've only just started, but it's obviously time for a tea break. I'll come back in half an hour when I've got a little bit of juice in one of these. Well, an unexpected tea break, but it's always time for tea. Now, let me finish this hole off. I don't have far to go, I don't think. there. Yeah. Too worry about me sometimes. Come out here and switch my brain off. That's why I don't like that. That blooming thing moved. Well, actually, it's perfectly all right, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. You can see that that's twisted, so yeah, that I'm not happy with. So what I'll do, I think, is try and clamp that in place while I fix it. There we go. Let's have a little look. That's all right. I'm happy with that. I'll do the same at the top. I mean, that's not going to go anywhere. So I'm just going to center punch this because otherwise the drill is going to womble all over the place. Oh, right. Oh, there's a bit of wind blowing today as well. What do I do with the other half? Solid. Afraid I'm not very good at working with my arms above, well, above heart height actually. I've got a bit of a heart problem. As soon as I lift my arms up, just says, I'm not pumping it all the way up there. Right, have another go. So I've just ripped the top of the posts off here, and to be honest, it would have been better if I did it by hand, is I really don't like using power tools up steps or a ladder. It's an easy way to have an accident, but never mind. The job is done now and I didn't fancy cutting them by hand, so I'm just going to clean up the raggedy edges with the file, get a drop of paint on there. I want to get plenty of paint on here. This is the end grain after all. Well, at this end, I must confess, I am cheating a little bit. I could drill through here again and into the end of this baseboard. It's a bit awkward getting the drill in there, so I'm just going to tie wrap it into place. This isn't structural after all. I can always screw it through later if I really need to, but I don't see why this won't be perfectly adequate. These are pretty heavy duty tie wraps. Can't go anywhere. One's probably plenty, but I'll get a second one in there anyway. No need for screws there. So at this end of the baseboard, I'm just going to screw into the doorpost. I think 2 screws will be more than enough here. It's only just got to hold it in place. Yep, perfect. That's not going anywhere. So this hose here that feeds the fruit cage, that was just running through the open end there. Before I can put the mesh on, of course, I've got to get this through the wood here. So if I just drill a hole here at a bit of an angle, this hose can just run up and through the wood. So I've got a big spade bit there. That should do the job nicely. It really didn't enjoy that, but it is through, so I can reroute the hose. Lovely. What I might do is put a little bit of paint under there, because otherwise water is going to sit on that inside surface, but I'll blob some paint around that in a minute. Well, that's the heavy work done. All I've got to do now is get the mesh on here. I've got something I can staple the mesh to here, and I will wrap around the sides and fold the mesh back over the tube here, and then overlap the bottom part of the mesh on the sides. And yeah, that's a bit of a fiddle. This mesh is horrible to work with, but I shall get on with that, and I'll return when I've got something to show. You've seen me wrestling with the mesh in previous videos, so yeah, I'll be back in a while hopefully with this all covered and finished. Well, of course, nothing goes quite to plan when you're improvising and making it up as you go along. So I did wonder whether this was going to be okay, and I don't think it is. I've pinned it down the side and across the bottom, but even when I wrap it around here, it's just wobbling all over the show. And I know I've got to put another piece on here and clip those two together, and it'll be a little bit better once I've done that, of course, but this is horrible. So that's why I put the straining wires along the sides, and they're nice and solid there now. I don't really want to do the same here. I could put an eye into the end of here, but that wouldn't be great. I would have to probably drill through and pull the wire. I don't like it. What I need is something to fix to. Of course, this would be slightly better if this was a flat piece of mesh. All of this mesh is recycled. It was probably a little bit bent when it went on our original fence, and it's a lot more bent now it's been ripped off. So yeah, this isn't great. So what I do have kicking around are some old bits of cant rail from when the new fence was put up, and I think what I might do is get one of these pieces along the edge here, just to give me something to pin to. And this will still be a bit wavy along here, but it won't be flapping in the wind. So I can spike this into the doorpost at this end. I can either screw through or then do it with some tie wraps at this end. I mean, it's not really a structural piece, it's just there to keep this mesh in good order. So yeah, it's unfortunate I'm not going to get this job done today, but I will cut this cant rail to length to fit both sides of the door. The other side I might get away with because the gap is so much smaller, but I'll fit a piece anyway. But I want to give this a few coats of paint before I install it. So yeah, bit of a delay, and of course I will need to wait between coats for this to dry. Never mind, it's going to be touch and go whether I'd make it today anyway. The sun is just going down behind the hedgerow, and as soon as it does that, the temperature really plummets, and there's a bitter cold wind today, so I'll be quite happy to get out of that shortly. Anyway, I'll get this cant rail sorted out, and then I will return to carry on with the mesh. Well, I'm back to have another go at finishing this job. I'm afraid the weather is horrendous today. It is wet and there's a big old storm coming in. So I apologise for any water on the lens and for any wind noise, but I don't think the weather's going to get any better for a few days. So I want to crack on with this job anyway, see if I can get it done today. So I've got these two pieces of cant rail, one each side of the door, and I've given them a lick of paint. So I will fix into the post here with some 4-inch screws, and I think at the other end I was debating what I might do there. I think I'll have to drill through the metal post again so I can put a proper screw in there and hold that good and tight. That'll give me something to pin this wobbly mesh against. And yes, it will be a little bit buckled here, but it won't be a problem, of course. I'm probably going to run out of these staples at some point. I've done this piece properly. I might have to get some more to finish off the others, but first job, get these rails fixed in place. Typical, there's a knot right at this end and it's skewed the drill right over, so I'm going in at a funny angle. Oh dear. Oh, not again. Flat batteries. You'd think I'd learn eventually. Oh, great. Time for another tea break. I forgot that I'd abused these quite a bit with the old spade bit there drilling through the sideboard, so these are flat again, and I really must learn to charge these up when I'm finished. One more. Well, that's solid enough. Definitely solid enough to tack a bit of mesh to, so that's great. If I'd realised I was going to do this, I would have left this a little longer here, but, well, actually, no, I've left plenty. That's absolutely grand, so I'll bend that all round there. Yeah, it's going to be fine. Right, I will do exactly the same on the other side now. Well, I haven't quite finished because, of course, I've run out of staples, so I will order some more and then I'll be able to finish pinning this. So it's only pinned in a few places, and this piece of mesh here, that's not pinned along the bottom at all. But other than that, I think this is good to go. So as far as this video is concerned, I shall declare this complete. What have I done? So I've got one piece of mesh up the top. I was really silly because I put some much better looking bits of the mesh on the back face, and I should have saved them for here. So it's a little bit ugly. There's lots of bulges and ripples in this, but doesn't matter. Doesn't need to win a beauty contest. Just keep the birds out, and that, I think, it might do quite effectively. So I've wrapped the mesh around the corners here, so there are no holes here. I need to put obviously the fabric bird netting on the top, and it will come down the sides. It will come round here, and we'll scrunch it up and pin it to this mesh wherever we need to, and there'll be just no way for the birds to get through. On the side here, we've come round and we've overlapped quite a long way onto the side mesh here, clipped it in quite a few places so that it sits nice and flat. It would be difficult now to catch ourselves on this, and most importantly, that leaves a nice curve on this corner and nothing to get snagged on. Of course, now I've put the mesh on, I can't just sneak in through the sides. I've got to use the new door, and it's been really wet the last few days, so I'm very pleased to see nothing's swollen up here or jamming. Yeah, this is looking absolutely fine. So yeah, job done, or almost done. So that will be it for this video, and of course for this series on converting this old polytunnel frame into a fruit cage. I don't think I'll bother to film getting the fabric netting over the top. That will just be me faffing around for a few hours and undoubtedly a fair bit of cursing in the process. Nobody needs to see that. So that will be all for this video. Thanks ever so much for watching, and bye for now.